Welcome to this CBAM Mandatory Reporting Rules webinar. I'm Shubham Thakur, climate journalist and sustainability expert. In this webinar, we'll be covering all the latest changes under the CBAM, which is European Union Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. Most of us know that European Union Commission has published some latest rules and documents which are mandatory to comply with for all the exporters, particularly of iron and steel, aluminium, cement, fertilizers, electricity, and hydrogen. We have entered the definitive regime, which means mandatory CBAM reporting phase from 1st of January this year, 2026, during which many things change and become mandatory. For example, tax calculation, penalties for inaccurate emissions data submission, EU accredited third-party verification for the emissions data report that you submit to your importers or buyers in the European Union Commission. Now, I have with me two experts to talk about CBAM. First, Nilesh Bhattad, sir. He is founder and CEO of CleanCarbon.ai, which is India's CBAM first platform, which helps not just in CBAM compliance, but is a center or a platform for CBAM related insights. This platform only talks and actually breathes CBAM and focuses on CBAM. It works closely with Ministry of Commerce and Industries, Services and Export Promotion Council, and EPC Engineering, also with FICCI. Then we have Priti Patil ma'am, who is CBAM tech expert at Clean Carbon. She will be walking us through all the technical requirements and how accurate CBAM compliance can be done, particularly accurate data collection with the help of technology, which most of the people in today's age and time rely upon. So now I'll request Nilesh Bhattad sir to do the context setting and throw some light on latest changes and how CBAM impacts not just export and import business, but it can actually act as a catalyst or an opportunity to expand the business in European Union Commission. Over to you, sir. Can you please unmute yourself, sir?
Okay, yes. I hope you can hear me now. Great. So thank you, Shubham, for that brief context and the background. And I welcome everyone in this knowledge session that where we are going to talk about. There is,
I would request my camera person to pan his camera and show the kind of
just a moment. So Shubham, can you control the?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so again, let me first of all thank you everyone for joining this knowledge session. Today we are going to focus mainly on the changes. I see the participants, some of the participants may are new to CBAM. So I will give some background what the CBAM is, and majority of our session will be focused on the CBAM updates. We will talk about the calculations, what is the formula, how exactly the tax will get calculated. We will also touch upon the other aspects like scrap. So now how the scrap would be treated in this new updates which has come. There is a mandatory third-party verification, which is also we will touch upon in detail. So before getting into all those discussions and in the details of all those aspects, let me give you our background, what at Clean Carbon, what we do. And I will also discuss what the strategic change which is going to happen for all the exporters which are exporting from India to European Union. So how exactly it is going to impact them, what they need to do now immediately, and what should be their strategy going forward to make sure that they handle this CBAM challenge well. So let me share my screen just to give you
So, sorry to interrupt you, sir. Some questions are coming in. So please keep all the questions saved in the chat box. And after the presentation, we'll reply to all the questions. Thank you.
Yes, sure. I hope my screen is visible to everyone. Uh, can you see my screen? Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes.
so yeah, before getting into all the details, I want to set the context, like I mean, I just want to tell what clean carbon is, and then why we are in better position to tell you what is happening currently in Europe, what is happening currently with the exporters in India, and what should be the way forward. So first of all, we are focused on only CBAM. So we are not doing anything. Only CBAM compliance is what we look at. And we have built the end-to-end platform where all the calculations, all the logic is been built in the software, and all validation, verification, audit, everything is managed by the software that has been built. We have delivered 5,000 plus CBAM reports so far. So this includes some of our very big customer who has like 700, 800 products. And some of our customers have like 100 plus suppliers. So more than 500 plus companies we have supported for their CBAM reporting. We have a super specialized team of CBAM experts, which have very deep knowledge and understanding about CBAM. We also got recently award from ACPC, which is a body under Government of India, for the work that we have done in the field of CBAM and sustainability. And we have featured in multiple national platforms like ET Now, ABP News, Mint. So that is the context and the background about clean carbon. So just to give you the idea that we are specialized in CBAM and one of the authority in India to talk about CBAM. Okay. So in this session, first let me give you the context about what CBAM is, maybe because some of the people that I see who have joined may not know what CBAM is. So I'll keep it brief just to tell you that CBAM is a regulation where we calculate carbon emissions which are happening in your production process, and we need to report those carbon emissions for the export that we do in Europe. And from 1st January onwards, like 1st January 26, we are entering into definitive phase. So October 23 to December 25, it was a transition phase where every company which was exporting to Europe, they had to report their quarterly emissions to their buyers in Europe, and then the buyers in Europe had to report those emissions back to their respective governments where they operate in. So now what is changing from 1st January is that uh, the tax phase starts. So from 1st January onwards, any shipment which land in Europe, it would be taxed on the basis of emission which is done in your product. Okay, so basically the bottom line is the more emission that you do, you will be taxed more. Okay, and while in next part of the discussion will show you the exact calculation for one of the sample where you will understand why it is important to calculate actual emissions, because if you rely on the default values, the cost implications are too high. Because in recent updates, the default values are increased quite substantially by European Union, and if you continue following default values, there could be maybe 40-50% excess cost which will you will have to incur while exporting your products, or maybe the cost of the product, emission cost of the product will get added in your overall cost. So that's why it is very critical for you to understand how exactly it works. We'll also understand the concept of like FAA, which is free allocation adjustment. Then we'll also understand what is SEFA. There are formulas which are given by the European Union, that how do we calculate exactly what are the terminologies which are there. Then they have also published the benchmarks and also the default values. So we'll also touch upon that, taking few examples. Like we'll understand what are the benchmarks in India for maybe few sample products. That will give us some idea that how exactly this calculation will work, and how the taxes will look like. Okay, so this is a brief, and in the end, maybe we'll have a detailed question and answer that you might want to know more details. So yeah, this is the context and the background I wanted to touch upon before getting into the actual technical aspect of it. So now I'll hand over to Preeti. Preeti, you can take it over from here and discuss the technical part.
Okay. Thank you, Nilesh. Yeah, I welcome everyone in this webinar regarding recent changes in EU CBAM. Okay, let me share my screen. So I'll now start with the recent changes that we had. Like these changes are applicable from the 1st of January 2026. This 1st January marks end of the transition phase, which was till 31st December 2025. And from 1st January, we have definitive phase starting. And importers must purchase and surrender CBAM certificates based on verified emissions for the entire year's import. And the tax is getting applicable from the 1st of January. Now, next important change in definitive phase is verification requirement. Until now, we were just submitting the reports, and importers were just uploading the reports emission details in EU portal. But henceforth, the importer will ask for the verified reports, verified CBAM data. And this like verification needs to be done by EU accredited verifier as per the EU ETS or ISO 14064 17029 frameworks. It is mandatory for all CBAM declarations. We will see the details of this in upcoming slides. So I'll just touch upon all the points here, and then we will see those in details. Next important change is certificate holding. So there was a rule to hold the CBAM certificates equal to like your based upon your embedded emissions. So earlier it was 80% of your year-to-date embedded emissions. Now it is 50% of your year-to-date embedded emissions. That means how much emissions you are bringing inside Europe. So against that, based upon against that, number of certificates to be surrendered is calculated, and 50% of that needs to be hold in your CBAM account. It is for requirement for the importers. Next is carbon price deduction. This is important change. Like importers can deduct any carbon price already paid in the country of origin. So if the imported goods are produced in India, and if in India, if the carbon price is already applicable to those goods, then that paid price can be deducted from the final tax. But in case of India right now, there is no such carbon price applicable. But if you have any suppliers who are producing the goods in some different country where the carbon price is applicable, this is again uh, beneficial for you in that sense. And but for that you need to have certified evidences to show, to prove that that price was paid. Next is change in default values. So new country specific default values have been released by EU. Um, so earlier we had a common set of default values. Now for every country there is a different default value, and these values have been increased a lot. Like these are taken from the 10 average of 10 worst performing factories. So those are quite high, and we cannot rely upon those default values anymore. Benchmarks and free allocation adjustments. So provisional production route specific benchmarks for calculating the free allocation adjustment are now available. So this free allocation adjustment will be deducted from your final tax. Next change is related to scrap. So pre-consumer and post-consumer scrap will be treated differently in CBAM calculations. So pre-consumer scrap or process scrap is now identified as CBAM good, and hence will be considered as precursor. So their benchmarks are different, their default values are different. In post-consumer scraps, which is recycling, it still is considered as zero emissions. Then next is we need to identify the quantities of both these separately, because earlier it was just a scrap, but now every different types of scrap is getting treated differently. Hence, we need to clearly identify those quantities. Next is scope expansion. So now there is a proposed list of additional CN codes under consideration, and once it is approved, those new CN code series will be included under CBAM umbrella, and which are 83, 84, 85, 87, 90, 94. These are the few series of CN codes which will get added under CBAM. So eventually, if your product has any metal part, if you are working in iron and steel, like iron and steel of the metal is covered under CBAM, and any of the, if any product, maybe it is wooden furniture, but if it contains steel screws, it comes under CBAM, like that. So every product is going to be covered by CBAM in coming future. Last is the timelines, so change of timelines. Certificates for 2026 imports will be available to purchase for importers from February 2027, and first annual CBAM declaration and surrender of certificates, means tax payment, is due by 30th September 2027. So they have given enough time to prepare the reports, to calculate the emissions and calculate the tax, and get it verified and pay the tax. So all these activities needs to be completed before 30th September of 2027. Now let's see those points, some of these points in detail to understand what exactly are they. So first is benchmarks and SEFA specific embedded pre-allocation. So these provisional benchmarks, I'm saying provisional because the documents that they have published have the watermark. Like these are the provisional documents, and numbers, values might change until the final actual versions are released by CBAM Commission.
CBAM?
Yes, CBAM. So provisional benchmarks are published for calculation of pre-allocation adjustments. So benchmark values are depending different based upon different CN codes, different production routes, which considers percentage of scrap in your product, whether you are using primary or secondary aluminum. Based upon these conditions, the production routes, the changes, and based upon that, the benchmark values are also different. Also, benchmarks are different for the case when you are using the actual embedded emissions, specific embedded emissions values versus when you are using the default SE values for reporting. These benchmarks will be used in combination with CBAM factors to calculate the specific embedded free allocation, which is SEFA, for the production process. So I have mentioned the formula here. SEFA for production process, G for year Y. So all these benchmarks are yearly. Every year the values will change. The default values changes. So whatever calculation we do using that particular year's default values, benchmarks, etc. So for production process G for year Y, the CBAM factors, CBAM factor and CF, these two factors will be applicable and multiplied by benchmark value for that particular CN code. That way you can calculate the SEFA for that particular production process. Once you calculate the production process SEFA, you can calculate the free allocation adjustment. This free allocation adjustment also considers precursors free allocation adjustment. So first you have to calculate for your own process plus whatever mass index, mass ratio of the precursor that you have used into the specific embedded free allocation adjustment of the precursor. So this highlighted portion is coming from precursor. First is your own product plus precursors value, and the resultant becomes your final free allocation adjustment. And you get the formula is such that you get the better numbers of SEFA if you have all the actual verified SE values from supply chain, because as I said earlier, the values, benchmark values, differ for actual versus default SEs. And the free allocation adjustment is such that you the higher the free allocation adjustment, lesser the CBAM tax, because this adjustment value is deducted from your payable specific embedded emissions. So here is a simple example.
Priti, just hold on. Just can you go back to the previous slide?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it is little complex here for somebody who is first time looking at it. So I'll just try to use some analogy to make it more simple if people on the call try to understand it. So see, first and foremost, the formula is to calculate your tax. There are two things which are required. First is your actual emission. So it is not written in the slide, but first thing that you need to know is actual emissions minus the calculation that we do here. Okay, and multiplied by your quantity that you are supplying to Europe. So now to calculate this SEFA, we are getting into this detail, but the first and foremost number that we need to know is the actual emissions that you have done. So in next slide, of course, you will get some more clarity, but what we are trying to do here is understand these formulas, which are quite complex. So now, if you see the sheet, maybe after this call we'll share that, but there are two columns, the column A and B in that free allocation. So column A talks about the process-wise emission. Okay, so if you want to calculate the emission per process, the actual emissions in your process, then the column A should be used. And column B is the emission benchmark for the product. Okay, so for example, you are maybe manufacturing a fastener. So what would be the emission factor which should be there? So that is there in column B in that particular PDF which is being shared. and column A is if you know each process. So if it is like you can consider pizza making process, for example. So I'm just trying to use analogy to make it simple. Okay, so for example, in every step, so while making pizza, you are maybe baking a flour, or maybe you are cutting the vegetables or baking the vegetables. So all those are processes. Okay, and every process you are making some emissions. So that is those emissions get added, and the values can find for each process in column A. And column B is if you want to use directly the emission number for entire product. So in this case, pizza, for example, what is the emission? So then you can use the column B. But column B is when you don't have the actual values of your processes or precursors, then it should be used. So I know there is a little complexity is there. And one more part is your production routes. Okay, so what is the production route, that whether it is a blast furnace route which was followed, or an electric arc furnace route which was followed. So on that basis also those benchmarks are there. It is not a static number or one number for one CN code. So based on this multiple combinations of uh, the points which are there, those benchmarks need to be picked up and used in your calculation. Okay, so again, if you see this CEFA number, so we didn't talk about CF. So CF is a cross-sectoral factor. Okay, so currently it is kept 1, so you can ignore it. For 26 2026 they have kept it 1, so that can be ignored. But this CBAM Y, so CBAM Y is 97.5%. So this is a free allowance. Okay, so what does this CBAM Y in this formula is that like for example, in this year, how much is the total emission that can be allowed free. Okay, so for example, in Europe, if any factory which is allowed to do emission, say up to 1 ton, so 97.5% of that is what is without cost, and above that will be cost. So that CBAM Y factor is changing every year. So this year it is 97.5%. Next year it is reducing. So by 2032, they are trying to make it 0. Okay, so that factor is also important in that calculation. And if you see the below formula, which is a summation. So summation, we talked about the all previous processes or the precursors that you have used. What is the emission which happened in those processes? You are clubbing those values. It is, again, one more important aspect is that weights. Okay, so it is not just the emission numbers of those processes, but how much weight which came in picture while producing that particular part in that process. So that get added. I know, I mean, this is still a little complex. I tried to simplify it, but maybe in the next slide, when we see the actual example, I think it would be more clearer, and we can take more questions also on this, because I know this will take some time to follow and comprehend. Yes, Priti, over to you again.
Sir, actually, there is one question. Sorry to interrupt here. I think it's related to this segment, and since it's a complicated stuff, I think maybe we could take that question. It's by Rishabh Gupta from Apollo Steels. So it's in the chat box, sir. Is it visible to you, sir?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So will benchmark values change if steel mill has 30% production? We have benchmark values. Yes. So, Rishabhji, you asked that will benchmark values change if the steel mill has 30% production from EF and 70% from BF route? Benchmark for EF is 0.5, whereas 1.49 for BF route. One customer told us that the benchmark value will also change in such cases. So yes, Rishabhji, absolutely, we need to do two different calculations. So whatever we have produced, so 30% production is with EAF route. So we will have different benchmarks and different calculations for your EAF route, and for 70% production that we have done, there will be a separate calculation. So if you maybe we will show you that sheet afterwards in the call in the same webinar, where the benchmark for EF route is different, and that's why even the emission numbers which happens, so emission that you do in EF route would be lower. So that's why lower benchmark would be applicable for EF route. And why this is there, I will tell you analogy also. So basically, if you see, if the current process is dirty, okay, so that dirty means it is doing more emissions. So now currently, at least for this year, more allowance is given, because if we go for a stricter benchmark, even for a BF route or blast furnace route, then the cost will shoot up like anything. But for EF route, already the emission numbers are less, and that's why the free allowances are kept low for already cleaner routes. So that is the logic which is given by European Union to have a different benchmarks for different routes. And why those benchmarks have kept lower, because the question naturally comes that, okay, I'm producing steel at using EF route, which is more efficient, or which is less emission route, then why the benchmark numbers are kept such a way that it is costing me more. Okay, so we can take one example and can talk about that. Yes, Priti, over to you.
So here is one example calculation. We have taken example of hot rolled coil with CN code 7208. Its export value, let's say it is 10,000 tons. Production route was blast furnace, which is route C, and its specific embedded emissions is 2.4 tons of CO2 equivalent per ton. So this SEE 2.4, this is calculated through our CBAM report, and it needs to be verified by the accredited verifier. So once it is verified, then it is considered approved, and that can be used for tax calculation. Benchmark for this particular CN code with blast furnace route comes 1.364 tons of CO2 equivalent per ton. And the CBAM factor for the year 2026, as we discussed, it is 0.975. And carbon price, let's assume it is like it is average price is 80 euro. So these are the values that we have considered before calculating. Now let's see the steps of these calculations. First is calculate specific embedded free allocations. So now you have SEE 2.4, specific embedded emissions of the product. Now let's calculate the specific embedded free allocations for SEFA for that product. So it comes to like 0.975 CBAM factor into 1 into 1.364, which is benchmark. So CBAM factors into benchmark gives us SEFA for that production process 1.330. Step 2 is calculate total free allocation adjustment using like your SEFA for the production process into the quantity which is getting imported in EU. So which is 10,000 tons. It gives us 13,300 of free certificates, free allocation adjustment. Now calculate total, let's calculate total emissions, which comes from the like SE per ton. We are doing 2.4 tons of CO2 emission into 10,000, our quantity. This gives us 24,000 tons of CO2. So that much we are bringing inside EU. So the tax will get calculated against these 24,000 tons of CO2. Determine final liability as like first your total emissions minus your free allocation, and which gives us 10,700 payable certificates. So this is the number of certificates that we need to surrender for this particular shipment. And the cost will get calculated by multiplying it by the price of the certificate, which is average price that we have considered, for example, 80. So 10,700 into 80 gives us 856,000 euros, which gives cost per ton 85.6. So per ton of this product, the cost will be, CBAM cost will be 85.6 euros. So this is a very simplified example actually. There are certain other aspects also there. Precursor cost is also there. So, but we have kept use a simple calculation so that everyone can understand it easily.
Just a moment, Priti. Can you go back to the previous slide? So, see, everyone, the point here we need to note is that for every ton now there is a cost of 85 euros per ton. This is an additional cost. So, like just for 1,000 ton, the cost which is coming around is 85 6,000 euros for just 1,000 ton of export, and that too we have considered better numbers like 2.4, which is on the better side in India. So that is where I think we all, basically all the exporters which are exporting from India, everybody need to understand the impact of the cost, and the impact is very high. And see, this number is coming with the use of actual values. So if you use default values, again this number will go further up, maybe by 40-50%. So that's where I think it is the most critical aspect for every company, especially every manufacturer and exporter which is exporting to Europe. They need to understand that if this cost is too high for them, where do they first and foremost they need to know where do they stand, what is their carbon emissions, and then how much is the cost that is there for their emissions, and then the next thing is how do they reduce these emissions. So these three things are very critical, but all out of that, first and foremost is first to know what is the carbon emissions in their product, if they are exporting to Europe directly or indirectly. So when I say indirectly, that means even if you are part of supply chain, you are not directly exporting to Europe, still all your emission numbers would be required by your buyer if his product is going to Europe by any way. So we have a lot of examples like that. Like we have some OEMs or tractor manufacturers, and they have very local small suppliers, screw suppliers, fastener suppliers. But now this particular OEM is supplying their products or maybe the tractors that they manufacture in Europe. So for them, it is mandatory to get the actual emission numbers even from their small suppliers, which are very local in Ludhiana or maybe Faridabad or in Nasik or very small towns of India. Even if you think that you are not impacted, that is not the case. If you are, even though if you are selling in India domestically, still there is an impact because of CBAM on you is what, and there is a huge financial impact. That is the point I just wanted to highlight. Yes, Priti, you can take it.
Yes. So next is related to default values. So what are these default values and how they impact? So in transition phase, it was like whenever for calculating SEE, specific embedded emissions of a product, we need to know what is the SEE of the precursor. the raw material, main raw material, that if like for example for wire we are using steel rod, so we need to know the SE of that rod also. So if that is not available because supplier is not aware of this CBAM, they are not calculating their numbers, and with the quarterly reporting needs, everyone, like many of our customers use the ask us to use default values. So default values are values published by EU CBAM. In case the values are not available, SE values of precursors are not available, and we were using it. But that list was a like common generic list, and the numbers were quite decent, not that big. But now the new list, which is country specific list, has been published, and in that specifically for India, numbers are too high. So and that is based upon what they data that they had collected based upon worst performing factories. So these numbers, so if your supplier's data is not available, you will have to use the default values. It is allowed to use default values, but it is not in your interest as a company or as a manufacturer, because that number will make your emissions very high. So these new country-specific default emission values are intentionally punitive, aiming to discourage reliance on default values. So they want people to take effort to calculate these SE values and change their processes to make lesser emissions. So that's why they have kept default values very high. Use of default values for precursors will result in very high SE values, even if the production process itself has zero direct emissions. So many of the products has, like, they just use the electricity during the processing. So direct emission is zero for them. But still, precursor has very high default value, and that's why final SE value becomes very high. So calculation formula is designed in such a way that the entire supply chain, even if the CBAM report is not available for one material, then your final SE is going to impact, and your product will have very high SE value. So it is very important that in entire supply chain, everyone needs to calculate their own emissions and provide that number to their buyers. So that's why manufacturers should make sure to get verified SE values from their suppliers, and the supplier also need to get verified actual SE values from their vendors. So this marks that default, like this CBAM is not just a compliance. You have to take effort to keep the cost lower. You have to like, this is a mandatory requirement now. So here is one example. Like we have taken default values for some CN codes from the list. And these are all from the India default values. So we can see here how those have changed. Like the column which is highlighted in yellow, those were the old values, the values that we were using till December 31st. So transition phase values. So for this 720219 ferromanganese, that default value was 1.44. Now that has become, base default value is 5.5, but every year it is going to increase by 10%. So for 2026, that default value is 6.1 for the same product. So earlier we used to calculate ferromanganese, if it is a precursor, we used to use 1.44 as the direct emission. Now we will have to use 6.149 as direct emission of ferromanganese. And that exponentially increases the cost of the final product. Similarly, for other products, you can see that values in blue column, those are the 2026 values. So from 2.03 to it has become 4.7. From 1.86 it has grown to 8.030. So this much higher cost will get applicable if we keep on using default values. So we have to get the data from the suppliers. Everyone needs to calculate their own SE values, their own CBAM reports. Then only we can keep this CBAM cost under decent range. So next important requirement is regarding verification. So verification is now mandatory. Exporter needs to get all the CBAM declarations verified by an accredited verifier. It is responsibility of exporter to get their data verified by the accredited verifier before declaration deadline, that is September 2027. This verification process includes mandatory factory visit and on-site audit, at least for the first year. So it is mandatorily the verifier auditor will visit the factory. They will see the production process. They will understand the scope. They will check whether you have considered entire all the processes which should be considered under CBAM. You have actually considered those, where your data is valid. It is not some manipulated data. So all those verifications will happen. From the next year, like for alternate year, they can verifier can decide whether they want to go for factory visit again, or they are satisfied with the earlier visit and they can do the online review of the factory. Then under this verification, all the emission related data and verification evidences must be kept for at least 6 years after the reporting year and made available for audit on request. So all the data related to this verification, this audit needs to be kept, those records needs to be maintained for 6 years. And this is some examples of evidence documents that will be required or that will be demanded by the auditors. This list includes detailed production and throughput data, raw material and fuel consumption records, measurement, calibration logs of instruments. If you are using any measuring instruments, then their logs, calibration details, your energy usage, emission factor references, then laboratory test reports wherever they are applicable, available. Means, for example, carbon content. If you are using mass balance method for calculating the emissions, then in that case, carbon content value is required for every material that is participating in this production process. So that carbon content value should be backed by some lab test report. Also, emission factors that we are using for fuels. So if you have lab test, then those reports will be required. Then a document describing your monitoring and calculation methodology. So that document they will ask. So how you are measuring the data? What is your process of measuring data? Where exactly you are storing that data? What calculation methods you are? The CBAM report has multiple different methods of calculation. So which method you are using? So all those details need to be documented and presented to the auditor. And if you are using public emission factors, like emission factors from the public database sources, then you need to keep the citation related, like first thing, you need to have justification about using the public data and not your own lab test reports. And then the versions, actual source of that public reference. So all these documents, like for electricity, you will have the bills. All these documents are evidence documents are required to be kept along with these CBAM reports and need to be made available to the verifier. Now this next slide is about the clean carbon tool that we use for supporting our customers for CBAM reporting. So this tool, there are quite a few changes happened in this when they released the recent documents. So our team is working on incorporating those changes in the system, so that immediately our new version of Clean Carbon will start supporting all the changes that will be applicable in definitive phase. And this includes reporting changes. There are few changes needed for reports with new default values, new rules related to use of default values, different CN codes. Then there are cost calculations that will get incorporated in the tool, which considers the production route specific benchmarks, pre-allocation adjustment calculations, and based upon that, the final cost calculation. Then, as I discussed earlier, evidence reporting. So evidence management is already there, but until now, evidences were not mandatory in the system. You were allowed to proceed further, generate the reports without evidences. But now the system will make it mandatory so that every report has its own set of supporting documents. So no data point in the report should be like without any supporting document. There should be reference, there should be proof for every data point. So currently we have some set of evidences, evidence upload sections, but there will be additional evidence documents also required for the reporting. So those will get added to the system. Then for your audit readiness, so here Clean Carbon tool will really help you, it's not just about creating the report, but supporting all those documents and providing those to the auditor. So we have various features which help you for your audit readiness. So record keeping for 6 years, we already have this feature in the system. Then we already have the audit trail present in the system, which can prove that this data is not tampered. It is coming from the once it is entered, we also integrate the data from SAP, Oracle. So source systems, we integrate that data into Clean Carbon as a customization request, and that audit trail will be available for auditors to check and to prove that this data is authentic data for carbon calculations. Then we have new auditors reports from where auditors can get the details about factory or products, whatever they need to present inside their auditor's report. And we already have the auditor user role. So from using that, auditor can log into the system. They can view all the relevant data in the system in read-only format. They can view the CBAM report. They can see the calculations, the base raw data they can see, and they can also see these audit trails and see it becomes very easy for the manufacturer to present their data to the auditor. So some features are already there. Some features are getting updated based upon recent rules, and very soon we will have our new version releasing in the production. So at the end, here are some action items for exporters, like immediate action items. What you need to do as a manufacturer or supplier or exporter. So check CBAM readiness of your buyer or importer. So only registered CBAM declarator can import the CBAM goods inside EU. So if your buyer is not aware of all these things, your shipments can be held up. So that's why you, as an exporter, you need to check their readiness. Whether they have been registered to EU CBAM and they are ready with all the data or all the reports. Then add relevant clauses in your contracts with buyers to clarify, clearly specify who bears the cost of CBAM certificates, because that is a gray area. Ideally, like importers are like, it is a responsibility of importer to pay that tax, but they can like put it on the exporter also. So those terms needs to be clearly discussed before sending any shipments. Get in touch with all your suppliers to make them aware about CBAM cost. This is very important, because even if you are taking all the effort to measure the data, to calculate to measure the data and calculate the CBAM cost.
Priti, I think you have to unmute. Hello? Priti, you're there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. So even if like you are calculating your SE numbers, if your suppliers are not calculating, you get impacted a lot. So it is very important that suppliers start measuring their data and calculate the CBAM emission cost. So get in touch with suppliers and prefer the suppliers who can provide the verified SE data. That is going to help you really. Then add relevant clauses in the contract so that suppliers are bound to share the CBAM data so that they can cooperate with you regarding the CBAM data. Then these third-party verifications will come with cost, so budget for that and set up efficient methodology for accurate measuring and reporting of the data. This is also very important, that because we were generating the reports, but many times many of the data points there was not clear breakup product wise, or maybe electricity breakup was not available and approximations were done. So that will not be accepted in henceforth by the verifier. So you need to have properly measured accurate data for reporting. So for that you need to have that methodology measuring. It's not that like when you at the end of quarter when you want to generate the report, you cannot have that data at that time. You need to have start measuring it from the day one of that quarter. So you need to have efficient methodology to measuring of that data and reporting it to in the clean carbon, so that clean carbon system can help you in generating your report. And last is identify and prepare for the evidence documents. I had listed the documents that will be required. So if you have those documents, it is good. If you don't have it, then it's high time that you need to identify what all things are missing and how to make those available. So you can start preparing for that evidence documents also. I think that's it. So now we have question time. If you have questions, you can ask.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And thank you, sir, for this detailed presentation. Now we open up the floor for the questions. Please be specific with your questions, your company and designation, so that we can also mail you the detailed version of the answer after the webinar. Thank you. You can post a question in the chat box so that everyone can see.
Yes, I think I could see one question here,
Yes.
which is from Dhananjay Saha, which talks about, can we still use default values in annual filing of September 27? and what will be the repercussions if data is not verified during a third party audit. So, Dhananjay ji, of course, you can use default values, but it is not in your benefit. The cost, in one of the example that we saw, the earlier default value numbers were like 1.44, and now the default value number, I mean, just one example is 5 point something. So it is 3 times or 4 times the values have increased, and your cost will be increased by that number if you don't use the actual values. So to answer your question, can we use? Yes, you can use, but it is costly. It is costly. Like it is going to cost you maybe double or triple of the cost which should be there in normal scenario. So that is the answer for that question.
Actually,
Next question.
Nilesh, I'm audible.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So, Nilesh, I am Vishal Bandhu from Punjab. I think
Yeah.
I am. This is a very good informative session, particularly for the MSMEs. I feel. So, just small question: is it Government of India level something being done? Are they agreeing to this proposal, or we in India are framing some our own laws for to help the MSMEs?
So see, this regulation is not a trade regulation. This is basically what EU frames it is as a company to company. So they are, I mean, the standpoint from the EU is that they are directly dealing with the companies and not with the countries in this particular regulation. So India's standpoint is India registered in multiple forums because of the MSME specifically. Few reasons like capability and the capacity to calculate, and third is like India is a growing economy, so naturally the cost of energy or the methods that we use are not yet sophisticated enough to have lesser emissions. So that challenges are there. It has been posted by Indian government at various forums, but the current stand is that there is no other way but to follow the law and the regulation is what European Union stand is.
Okay. So in the European, I think all the companies are following, or there are pick and choose. Some companies following or some not following. It is
No,
mandatory for them.
every company in the world is following, so not only
Okay.
India. So this is applicable to every company in the world which is exporting to Europe. Of course there are certain sectors. So from the Indian standpoint, we'll talk about iron and steel and aluminum, which is majorly impacted sectors. But any company in the world, be it a very maybe small country in maybe small part of Africa, still everybody has to follow this.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes. I think somebody from Nevatia Steel want to ask. Shubham, unmute कीजिए उनको.
Yeah, good afternoon. This is
Yes, good
Shyam Nair
afternoon.
from we want to ask you about the verification of the data. How this carbon emission data can be verified with the precursor and ourselves.
So see, verification, there are things that we need to do. So in the presentation we discuss, we need to keep the proofs. So whatever calculations that we do, we need to have the proofs. So for example, raw material. So what were the raw materials used? What is their material test certificate? Then how much quantity was used? Then electricity, how much electricity was consumed? What are the bills that we need to have the actual bills of those electricity which was consumed. Then scrap. So for example, scrap, if we have used scrap, so we need to know the source of the scrap. So the origin from where this scrap came, if I am using in that process. So all those data points and documentations are required at the exporter level or at your level when you calculate. These documents need to be kept. And then there are third-party auditors, or there will be third-party auditors which will be appointed by European Union. So those list is not yet published, but those auditors will visit the factory. They will do the actual factory visit, and then they will ask for these records. Okay, so maybe, for example, first quarter now they want to audit your report. So whatever reports that you have submitted, they will ask the corresponding proofs. They will also verify whatever the proofs that you have submitted are correct or not. They will also visit and see your process and whether it is aligned what you have stated with that or not. So that's how on high level the verification will work. And your role majorly is to keep the records and proofs handy for all the calculations that you do.
So one more doubt. Who will appoint this accreditor or this auditor? We have to arrange this auditor, or the European Union or our customer will appoint this auditor.
Okay, so see, as of now, there is no 100% clarity that who is going to appoint. So see, first of all, who will be the auditor? That is not yet clear, because European Union is going to declare that list of the auditors. What they are saying is currently those will be European companies which are already doing EU ETS audits. So mostly those companies first will get this authority to do the CBAM audits, is what the current documents or the information is available. Now, once those companies or the agencies are appointed, then who is going to do like who is going to appoint that agency for the audit? That is not yet clear in that document. So maybe once we have more clarity on that, we'll be able to share.
So, is there any exact timeline for when will this be declared? Like carbon tax, carbon duty tax, and this auditor list?
So see, tax is applicable. So there are two things. The auditor is a separate thing, and the tax is applicable from 1st January. So 8 days before the tax is started, the definitive regime have started already. So any shipment which land in Europe today, or maybe if it is landed from 1st January onwards, any day in Europe, it is under the CBAM tax. So the tax has to be calculated. The tax is a different part. The audit is a different part. So tax currently it will be on the basis of your declarations. But if they find out in the audit that whatever declarations that you have made are incorrect or not right, then there could be a penalty, or there could be repercussions for the incorrect publications that you have made about your CBAM reporting. So there are two different things. The part which is about the auditing agencies is still unclear who will be agencies, but the tax part they have very much clarified, and how it will be calculated, that also we discussed today.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Currently
Yes.
in India, I think there is a 9 certification bodies appointed by NABCB. Whether they have any role in this or not, 9 certification bodies already registered by NABCB. Whether they will be playing any role in this or not.
No, so see, there is no role of India as a country or Indian bodies in this entire exercise. There will be specific certification agency which will be appointed by European Union, and I mean, as of now, there is no linkage of any other authorization or accreditation to any other certification body outside Europe.
Sir, in during the process of evaluation, if any of the factors are missing, like so many data are required, then if based on assumption or based on proper justification, it can be considered or not. Like there are many factors that has to, the OEM has to be keep the record. If he has not record for any particular equipment or particular process, whether with proper justification or proper validation, he can assume this during the calculations. There is a provision or not?
No, so there is no scope of justification, at least in the current regulation. Then in that case, if you don't have the actual data, then you have to use the default data. And in case of default data, there is a penalty. I mean, the cost is high. So it is in the benefit of the OEM or any company to make sure that they have, and that's why the time was given. The time was given from October 23 till December 25. It was enough time which was given to every company in the world to set up their process. So so currently they can't go back and say that, okay, I don't have this process or I don't have this data, so I give this justification. So that is not the case. You will have to use some value, either actual value or default value, and on that basis there will be a calculation which you'll have to pay.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Uh, so I think there was query from INET. Do verifiers need to be appointed by the non-EU exporter or EU declarant? And would the verifiers need to be accredited by EU national accreditation body appointed in EC number? Okay, so yes, I think partially I try to answer that query about the verifier. So currently there is not the certainty about the verifier. So who is going to appoint that verifier? At least currently we don't have the 100. So Priti, you may add if there is any clarity in the any of the documentation that I have missed, that who is going to appoint that verifier, whether the exporter will appoint that or the buyer in Europe will appoint that, or who is going to decide who will be my verifier.
Yes. So the tax payment is liability with the importer, but the verification, supplying verified data is the responsibility for the exporter. So the non-EU exporter or installation operator, they need to appoint the verifier and get their data verified.
I think there are many we supplying metal components to UK, but still date we are not get any notification. Okay, so I think Sachinji is asking about metal components UK. So Sachinji, UK CBAM is not in place yet. It will start from 2027. I think it is good time for you to get prepared. But since it is not yet in a mandatory phase, from 27 onwards, you might get some information from your UK buyers. Okay, I think again from Nevertia, still the question is this going to be similar to IATF or ISO for third party? Uh, so yeah, I think we discussed about this. The third party verification process, the companies or the agencies will be appointed by EU, and then the exporter need to work with the agency which is appointed by EU. Do organization need to validate its certificate every year? So yes, so this is a yearly requirement. So see, currently the reporting requirement is quarterly. Every quarter you need to submit this report. From 26 onwards, maybe annually, all the reports need to be validated and verified. And even in the verification, they have mandated that first year it could be physical visit, and if they're satisfied with the physical visit in the first year, then next year they can do the virtual visits, which is a video visit for your factory. But to answer your question, yes, it needs to be validated every year. So that's the answer. Next is, what can be the main responsibilities of supplier exporters from Europe? So I think we discussed this responsibilities of suppliers. So responsibilities of suppliers or exporter is to calculate their CBAM emissions correctly and report those emissions correctly, and plus keep the records and proofs so that they can audit all that data, and that can be shared with the auditor. So that is the main responsibility. Being a verifier, can I assist exporter to CBAM ready? Okay, I think this 14064 is a broader verification. You need to have the detailed CBAM understanding for supporting CBAM. Sharad, I think Anod do verifies. I think you have shared something. So
So that is taken. I think Mr. Kaur Chadda has posed one question below that.
okay. Since the current scope looks after the unfinished final goods, what all does CBAM wish to cover under the version where they are planning to expand to the downstream products, which are also going to be unfinished products? So see, Chadda ji, so currently the scope they have identified and mentioned the specific CN codes or HSN codes in the language in Indian context. So HSN codes that they have mentioned, we need to do their CBAM reporting. There are certain HSN codes which were not covered. So, for example, car, okay, or washing machine. So, like it contains a lot of iron and steel, but still it was not covered under CBAM. So those products which got missed in this initial list, authority is or the European Union is trying to cover those products which contains iron and steel but were not covered earlier. So that list is they have published what could be the products that they want to extend to, but that will start from 28. So currently there is no immediate obligation for those products. Okay, there is one more question from Neha Patil. How is it with the fertilizers exporters from Europe to EMA Asia? So see, fertilizers exporters from Europe. So from Europe, it is a different thing. But if you are exporting from maybe Asia or any other region to Europe, then this CBAM is applicable to you, and you need to follow the regulations. So there are different calculations which are there for whatever fertilizers that you produce and export, and for those particular exports that you do to Europe from any part of the world to Europe, those regulations will follow. Next question from Rishabh ji. Any suggestion from your end on how we can reduce our emission and to be competitive in global landscape? So Rishabh ji, so this process starts first with the measuring. So there are multiple things when we start analyzing any company. First and foremost thing, we need to understand what is the production process, what are the final products which are produced, what is the raw material which is going inside the production. And once we analyze that, then of course there are ways which will be shortly starting with lot of our existing customer to understand and figure out whether what are the possibilities to reduce those emissions. So yes, that is there, and that is the goal for every company which is exporting, because if they don't work on this, then the cost of the export will be very high, and they might lose the market share in this process.
Thank you, sir. I think we no longer have any questions, but I have a couple of questions, sir, that I have been thinking to ask both of you. So first, the current regulation says that only authorized importers can accept your imports, basically exporters that export the product in the European market. What is that? And who will be held responsible for the carbon tax to be paid to authorities, or CBAM tax, whether it is importer or the supplier?
Sure. Priti, you want to take that? So let me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So the importers need to register at the CBAM portal for be able to import the CBAM goods inside EU. That is the first thing. They will check your like CBAM account number and the CBAM data on when that shipment is received at the customs. And the tax payment, that is also responsibility of that importer. So they need to have the account, and they need to hold the certificates, 50% of the certificates that are required for that particular shipment import. So those needs to be there in their account, and as a kind of a guarantee. And then at the end of the year, they will have to surrender those certificates, 100% certificates to CBAM Commission. So it's a
Ma'am,
responsibility of importers.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for clarifying that. Ma'am, there is one more doubt that I think is prevalent, not just on this webinar, but mostly people ask, what are the major responsibilities of suppliers? Does a supplier need to submit CBAM report to EU authorities or just to EU importer or EU buyer, and then the work is done? What are the responsibilities of suppliers, particularly of iron and
Yes.
steel or aluminum or cement from Indian region?
Yeah, supplier need to submit the CBAM report to their buyers or their importers. They will, their customers or their buyers will ask for the CBAM data, CBAM report to the suppliers or manufacturers in India. And yeah, their responsibility ends there. But they need to have proper clauses in their contract so that those costs are not transferred to the supplier, tax cost.
Okay. So, ma'am,
think there is
there's
one.
one more. Yeah, I
Sorry.
have one more question, sir. So, the CBAM has published some HSN codes or CN codes for different sectors and processes. If my product, for example, iron and steel, or if certain product does not fall under the CBAM listed HSN code, does that company need to comply with CBAM? If yes or no, and the added question is, will sectors be expanded after 2027? For example, now we have 6 sectors, iron and steel, aluminum and others. Will the Europe cover other sectors also under the CBAM compliance? Thank you, sir.
Okay. Sorry, Priti, you want to answer that?
No, you can take it.
Okay. So, see, Shubham, there are two parts of the question. One is the expansion of the sectors. So, of course, there is a plan to cover more and more sector going forward. Which sectors, when they will cover, that is not yet very clear. Of course, the expansion of the scope of the existing CN codes, they have published certain CN codes already. I think we have discussed that in the webinar, that which are the next codes which they are going to cover. And the second part of the question was, if my code, HSN code, is not falling in that list as of now, so do I need to comply? The answer is that it depends whether your buyer is asking your CBAM data for that. Reason being, if your product has some steel or iron or maybe aluminum, and if that is the case, your buyer might need that data, and you will still have to submit that. As far as legal position is concerned, if your CN code is not there listed, it is not mandatory or it is not needed. But again, it changes case to case basis, specifically in some cases where the product is not listed, or there is some mismatch in the HSN code which is there in the source country and the destination country. Maybe that product can be treated differently in different countries. So in that case, this might happen.
So I have three more questions. First, many people think that if the company has done some sort of carbon accounting, ESG or LCF for that matter, they can also use the similar data to comply with CBAM. Is it right, or is it true, or is it wrong? They have to treat CBAM separately, or those accountings can be used for CBAM compliance?
So see, CBAM specifically have its own methodology, its own template, its own data points. So if you are doing in general GHG accounting or carbon accounting, that cannot be directly used. Of course, the process or the methods that you followed can certain portion of it can be reused, but it is not directly you can use that data for CBAM reporting. There is very specific method and the calculation which needs to be followed for CBAM reporting. I think there is one question here. Show me
Yes,
just a
sir.
moment. I've heard that company can buy carbon credit from others. See, in context of CBAM, the carbon credits are not applicable or useful. You cannot offset your tax bill against carbon credit under the CBAM regime. For other purposes, the carbon credit is a different subject altogether. But as far as CBAM is concerned, no, carbon credits are not useful for you to offset your taxes. Only thing which you can offset is the tax paid in the source country. So, for example, if India there is no tax as of now, but if you pay any tax in India for the production of that particular product, the emission tax, then that can be adjusted or you can offset that, but not the carbon credit. Yes, Shubham, yes, you were saying something. Hello? I think, Shubham, your voice is not reaching. Hello? No problem. I think there is some challenge that Shubham said. Hello? Shubham, you're on mute.
Am I audible, sir?
Yes,
Am I
yes,
audible? Sir,
yes.
there's a lot of talk in the market about carbon tax calculations. Now, although exact benchmarks have not been published, but we have some idea about that. Does clean carbon have the ability to predict those carbon taxes and tell the supplier and the importer that they can be future ready in terms of carbon tax scenario, and how accurate those calculations can be?
Shubham, so we do have the exact benchmarks now. So only thing is the document says it's provisional, so there could be possibility of some change, but the exact benchmark of the materials has been published, and we are already incorporating those changes in clean carbon. So all those calculations, the tax, what will be the tax for next year, next 3 years, everything will be available in the Clean Carbon platform.
Thank you, sir. I think we don't have any more questions. I will request you and Priti ma'am, both of you individually, to give your concluding remarks on the topic.
So yes, maybe I really appreciate everyone who joined this conversation, a very important one. And I think all of us who are impacted by CBAM, it is very high time that if you are not ready, let us get ready as soon as possible. And if you need any support or any information is required, then we at Clean Carbon are available to support you at any time. Yes.
Priti ma'am.
Yes, yeah, thank you for joining this session. And as Nilesh said, that this is like we have already entered in definitive phase. Tax is now getting applied. So we need to start measuring our data, and once we measure, then only we can reduce the tax. So yeah,
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you,
that's
sir, for this
thank you.
detailed presentation. And for all the people who have joined the webinar, we had about more than 100 people who have joined the webinar. It was a successful one. And to answer some of your questions, CBAM, as our guests have said, is now mandatory for all the sectors covered under it, like iron and steel, aluminium, fertilizers, cement, hydrogen, and electricity. More and more sectors, as per the HSN code and CET code, will be covered soon, unofficially and officially, as per European Union Commission. So the answer is to rely on accurate compliance platforms who not just help in CBAM reporting, but breathe CBAM reporting like cleancarbon.ai. So thank you so much. And any of us have any doubts, any clarifications, or want to also talk in detail more than this sector-wise, area-wise of how CBAM impacts steel or other sectors, we can talk on the mail. You can drop your email ID or any queries in the chat box. We'll reach out to you. And everybody will get the copy of this webinar. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone.
Thank you.